and just know that you're getting ready to go do something that you love? Like today is that day for me. I feel like, I don't know, man, we might not be done before second service starts. Like I'm feeling super hype about today. Because, you know, when we've been talking in this series, The Struggle is Real, we've just been tackling like super easy, pancakey topics and things like that. And today is no different. We're going to tackle yet another super easy to deal with topic that we tend to struggle with in life. Lust. This is why we don't tell you what it's going to be before you come to church. We're going to talk about this idea of lust. But listen, I want to do this, and I've told you guys this before. I don't ever want to be the kind of pastor, I don't want us to be the kind of church that shies away from things that people really struggle with, things that people are actually going through. I don't want to just discuss what I call ice cream problems. You know what I mean? Just like, oh yeah, I struggle too. I ate too much ice cream last night. Now, if you ate 4 gallons, then yeah, maybe there's a problem with ice cream. But otherwise, I want to be a church that talks about real things because I want us to grow. I want us to grow closer to Jesus. I want us to grow individually. I want us to grow in our relationships. And so to me, talking about real things, talking about something like lust and bitterness on Mother's Day is something that we just have to do. We just have to do this kind of stuff because I don't want us to pretend that everything's okay, right? Everything's not okay. I'm not okay. And so we need to discuss these real things, these real struggles that go on. Have I sold that enough? All right, so shut up and move on, right? All right, so let's define lust as we get started today. Lust is a sinful desire for someone or something. A sinful desire for someone or something. Now, certainly you can lust after a material possession, a car. You can lust after a new house. You can lust after a TV. You can lust after sweet New Balance shoes, whatever it might be. But we're not going to focus on the something part of lust today. We're going to focus on the someone part of lust today. So lust is a sinful desire for someone or something. Now, when I posted about this on Facebook this week, I realized rather quickly that people don't know the difference between lust and attraction. Several people posted pictures of handsome people and say, I lust after this, but I love my husband, or I lust after this. And I don't know if you have the right definition of lust in your mind, because it's a sinful desire for something. Okay, so let's do, like, attraction, very simple, all right? It's noticing the beauty in a person, all right? It's just taking note of that thing, right? It's taking note of who that person is. It's noticing physical beauty or handsomeness or whatever that might be, and then it moves on. Okay, so that's attraction. You can say about me as much as you want, that's a handsome dude, and then move on, right? And I can say about some person, that is a beautiful lady, and then move on. That is just attraction. There's no sin in taking notice of something like that. Lust is when that noticing takes another step, and another step, and another step, and turns into something sinful. It goes beyond God's will for our relationships. It turns into sexual fantasies. It turns into emotional fantasies, and it is a desire that goes beyond God's plan for human beings, God's plan for your life. That is lust. Now, let's state the obvious, all right? Lust is bad, but why? All right? We say that, this is the kind of thing that, this is the kind of church that I want to be, right? We can say lust is bad, but if we don't qualify that, we don't talk about why that's a thing that is a problem, then all we're doing is just making statements of the obvious, okay? So, lust is bad, but I want to look at 3 reasons why lust is bad. The first one is this: Jesus said so. All right, Jesus said lust is bad. Look at this passage on the screen from Matthew chapter 5. Jesus is doing some teaching here. And he says, you have heard that it was said, do not commit adultery. Now that is hearkening back to the 10 Commandments when God spoke to Moses and to the Israelite people. a husband shouldn't cheat on his wife, a wife shouldn't cheat on his husband. Jesus says, hey, you heard it said that you should not commit adultery. But I tell you, which means that Jesus is going farther than the Old Testament command. Got it? So Jesus is taking it a step further. He says, but I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. How are you doing with that? If your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. Now, I want to just be clear. Jesus is speaking in hyperbole. Hyperbole is an exaggeration for the sake of emphasis. It's a very clearly written technique in the original language that you can't be confused for actually doing this. Now, because, I'll say this, every single one of us would either have one eye or no eyes. Right? So Jesus, what I believe he's doing here is showing us how important it is that we not be people who participate in lust. That we don't allow that thing to rule our lives. He goes on, he says, it's better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go in hell. So if, I'm just going to say it, man, we'd be blind and handless if we were not, if this was not a hyperbole here. Jesus is showing us very clearly the weight, the struggle of all of this stuff, that it is a big deal to him. But why is it such a big deal? Why is lust such a big deal? Well, I think it's because you and we're taking that man or that woman or that situation and we're taking them out of proper context. Okay, we're thinking of those people in ways that are not contextually good or accurate for them. Does that make sense? So, another reason, I don't have the right to think of some other woman that way. You don't have the right to think of some other woman or man that way. It is not biblical sexuality. It's out of context. The Bible is very clear that if a person is married, they are only to think of their spouse in that way and no other person. I think it's bad because it leads to cheating, if only in the mind. Jesus said if you do that, it's adultery, straight up. Straight up, it's adultery. I think it's demeaning to your wife and to your husband and to your friends and to the relationships that you have. I think lust is bad because it's selfish. Somebody has an alarm going off. That's actually the sound you should hear when you start to lust. And you see something and it goes beyond, oh, that person's pretty. That's what should be going off in your head. Lust, man, it devalues human beings. It devalues you into an object. It devalues a human being that Jesus died for. It devalues a human being that was made in God's image. Lust teaches your children that people are things. I can remember men in my life breaking their necks to look out the window and in the mirror at someone passing by. I saw that as a child. We better believe that if we're objectifying a woman or a man because of their physical appearance, our children will see that. And they will mimic that. Lust is bad because there's no true union there. Lust is bad because we are replacing real for plastic. So I think those are just a few of the reasons that Jesus says that this is a terrible thing for us. Another reason lust is bad is because it seeks satisfaction and fulfillment in temporary things. It seeks satisfaction and fulfillment in temporary things. Look at this passage from Ephesians 4. It says, you were taught with regard to your former way of life, to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by what? Deceitful desires. Now, pay attention to that. That's an important statement there. Deceitful desires. You were taught to put off your old self, which is being corrupted. Is that good? Corruption? Has that ever been a news story that everybody's like, the government is corrupted? No, it's a terrible thing to be corrupted. Our lives are being corrupted, just like all of everybody's rusty bucket cars in Syracuse. Corrupted. We are being corrupted by deceitful desires. Deceitful desires. So, you were taught with regard to your former way of life to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires, to be made new in the attitude of your minds, and to put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. The challenge with lust is not merely to do what God says, but to prefer what God says. The challenge is not to become righteous or to become holy, but to prefer the things that Jesus says that would lead us into a deeper, developing, maturing, growing relationship with Him. The deceitful compensation of lies is too brief and too shallow. We must prefer Jesus. I can think of literally a gazillion situational ways to help you battle lust in your daily life. But what it comes down to is a practice of preference. You practice the preference that you want in your life. You put that thing into practice. I encourage us to prefer Jesus. I prefer steak to McDonald's all day long. McDonald's, to me, is, you know what, I'm not going to. Anyway, it sucks, but whatever. But I prefer the better thing to the lesser thing. And when we're talking about lust and these desires that overtake us from time to time, if we say, no, I prefer Jesus, I prefer what Jesus said, and start practicing that preference, we can start overcoming lust. Now, last part is this. Well, not the last part, because I still have a lot more, but just be ready for it, all right? The last reason it's bad is because lust is distracting. Lust is distracting. A married man who is lusting is not focusing on his wife. He is not thinking the best and doing the best to the point of self-sacrifice. Every single thing that crosses his field of vision is a problem for him. A married woman who is lusting, she is not focusing on her husband. She is not thinking the best and doing the best to the point of self-sacrifice. She is distracted by thoughts that prevent her from realizing the positive things that she already has. A single person, when a single person is lusting, they put real and authentic relationships on the back burner. Single people, it's a struggle, especially if you don't want to be single. What happens with lust is that a real and authentic thing is treated for plastic. Husbands, wives, single people, let me ask you a really serious question here. What if you poured yourself into the relationships that you already have? Husband, what if you poured yourself into your relationship with your wife? Wife, what would happen in your marriage if you poured yourself into your relationship with your husband? Single people, what would happen? What could possibly change in your life if you poured yourself into the relationships that you already have? See, this is a preference for real over a preference for fake. Now, I'm going to tell you something that nobody knew, all right? Brand new information here. When it comes to lusting, men and women struggle differently. Did you guys know that? No, certainly that is revelatory in its nature. Men and women struggle differently. Now, and I'm going to say some of these things as generalities, but I need you to pay attention to them. And the reason that I'm saying these things that might seem obvious to some of you is because they might not seem obvious to some other people. All right, so please stick with me, all right? Men and women are both susceptible to visual, physical lust. All All right, men and women are both susceptible to that. It's something that both men and women do. But women, as a general statement, prefer an emotional relationship first, which might lead to physical. Tracking? Ladies, if I'm wrong, you can throw something at me. All right? Men generally prefer a physical relationship that might lead to an emotional relationship. You see how those are pretty jacked up? Those are backwards, right? Or it seems like they're so counterintuitive. Now, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I just don't know if anybody's ever given any real thought about that. Women lust differently than men. I asked on Facebook for people to send me private messages, and so I'm going to tell you what everybody said with their name attached to it. Just kidding. How women lust, and the women that I've talked to, the women that wrote to me, they said things like this. Now, men, seriously listen to this, because this can be eye-opening for your relationships, for your wife, for things like that. It can give you tools to pour into your spouse. If you're single, it can give you tools for your future life. This is how women have said that they lust. And I'm going to come quoting here. Oh, I wondered if he's nice. Or, I'm lonely. Which would lead to lust. Look at her body. I wish I looked like that. Someone said, if I lust after a man, it's not because I want him, but that I want to be wanted by him. It's a value statement, right? Someone said, when I lust, feelings of not being enough, not having the figure I want, or someone else's home, or financial freedom for vacations and stuff. Someone else said, I lust after the relationships I see other people having. Those are all emotional connections, right? Men lust differently. Now, okay, so although women are saying that they're lusting after these emotional connections and things like that, let me just be clear, right? They're not like looking at a toad and saying those things. You know what I'm saying? Right? There's going to be a physical attraction there when they're thinking that stuff, but men are primarily motivated by physical attraction. Here's what some men say when they're talking about lust. Look at her body. Man, I would like to... ... whatever that is. Now, I'm going to leave it at that. I've been a man for 43 years, and I know that men's thoughts can be pretty disgusting. We need to understand that there's a difference. Men are seeking the physical thing, women are seeking the emotional thing. And if we pour properly into relationships, we can begin to overcome lust in our relationships. Now, last bit, okay? Last bit here. Only 40 minutes left. Listen. What do we do? What do you do about lust? What do we do about it? I'm going to say this. I believe we have to set goals. All right? We have to set goals for our relationships. If we don't set goals for our relationships, we never get anywhere. If we do set goals for our relationships, when the temptation to lust, however it might be for you, comes up, you go, that doesn't match my goals, so I'm not going in that direction. Please understand this. If you set a goal for your life, it's going to take practice. You're going to stumble, you're going to trip, you're going to fall. It's going to take practice. So, 3 goals. 3 goals. Ready? 3. 1, 2, 3 goals. First one is this. Make it your goal to fight. Make it your goal to fight. We've been talking a lot about fighting in church lately. I think we should start a fight club here. I mean, I honestly think we should. Just a bunch of people just beating the fool out of it. No, we're not doing that. But we should make it our goal to fight. Listen, I've told you this numerous times here. Genesis 1:26 tells us that we are made in the image of God. And Exodus 15:3 tells us that the Lord is a warrior, which means that you are a warrior. You are meant to fight. You and I were meant to fight. We're made in the image of God. We were made to throw a punch. We throw punches for ourselves, our families, our relationship with God. One of the most powerful weapons that we have is prayer. And you go, oh, prayer, that's dumb. You're not doing anything when you're praying. Oh, yes, you are. Oh, yes, you are. Did you know that your words, it's the only part of you that can speak into the physical world and into the spiritual world at the same time. When I pray, I'm asking God to do something in the physical world, and I'm asking him to do something in the spiritual world as well. It's the only way that we can do that. We can talk to God in the physical world. That is mind-blowing to me. So if you ever think that prayer is not a powerful weapon, man, I don't know. Here's what prayer is like. Prayer, okay, remember Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? What was the old guy's name? No, who? What? Splinter? No, that's not what I'm thinking of. Star Wars. That's what I'm thinking of. Same thing, right? It's all the same, right? So Yoda. We're talking about the exact same stuff, guys. Come on. Right? Yoda was and I don't even know, okay, clearly, I don't know anything about Star Wars, but Yoda was like this little dude, like he had his cane and fight your must, all that stuff, you know, Yoda did. Very unassuming guy, right? But then I remember something where he just totally, he like stood up straight and he started waxing people. Is that a thing? Like he like threw dudes out windows, in, you know, whatever. I mean, he was a very unassuming thing. And then in the moment of the fight, he came to life and he blew that thing up. That's what prayer is. Prayer is the Yoda of your life. I gotta stop getting off script. Seriously. But that's what it is. Prayer is this unassuming weapon, and then all of a sudden when you're praying, it's like, bam! I'm speaking into the physical world, I'm speaking into the spiritual world. That is a way for us to fight. We are warriors. Second thing is this. Make it your goal to choose satisfaction. Make it your goal to choose satisfaction. I love this passage from Proverbs chapter 5, and I want you to follow along with me on the screen. And I want to say this before we start reading it. This is a metaphor. You'll know very soon, well, we're talking about lust, all right? So everything we're going to read here is metaphoric for sexual activity, okay? Proverbs 5, drink water from your own cistern, running water from your own well. Let me just be very clear here. He is not talking about pumping a well in your backyard. Got it? Is that enough? Is that enough with the explanation of the metaphor? Okay, you got it. Amber? You can't sit up front anymore. Yes. All right. Drink water from your own cistern, running water from your own well. Should your springs overflow into the streets? Your streams of water in the public squares? Let them be yours alone, never to be shared with strangers. The reason I know this is metaphoric is because Jesus was the living water and he told us to give people stuff to drink. He's not talking about water in this passage right here. He says, may your fountain be blessed, and may you rejoice in the wife of your youth. A loving doe, a graceful deer. May her breasts satisfy you always. May you ever be intoxicated with her love. That word love in the Hebrew is dode, and dode means getting it on. Got it? For married people? You know what I'm talking about? Okay. Just being honest. He goes on, why, my son? Why be intoxicated with another man's wife? Why embrace the bosom of a wayward woman? For your ways are in full view of the Lord, and he examines all of your paths. Married people, choose satisfaction in your marriage. To be satisfied is a choice. To be satisfied is a choice, and I want to encourage you to choose satisfaction. Single people who might be struggling right now with loneliness or whatever things that you might be going through, I want to encourage you to choose satisfaction in the relationships that you have. Please understand that satisfaction is not circumstantial. Satisfaction is a choice that you make. And I want to encourage you to choose satisfaction in your relationships. Third thing and last thing is this. Choose gratitude. Choose gratitude. You're going to fight, you need to choose gratitude. Choose gratitude for what you already have rather than bemoaning what you don't have. My friend Andy Field and I have been doing this lately whenever we hang out. We go, man, we are so blessed. Listen to how blessed we are. We have a house. Like, we both have a house that we don't have to share. Like, we have clothes. I have $20 jeans on. I am blessed beyond belief. I'm so blessed. I have a dog. It doesn't provide milk or meat. It is nothing but an entertaining thing. You guys get what I'm saying? This is how blessed we are. And then when you start to choose gratitude in your life, that's the kind of crap you begin to thank God for. I'm so blessed I got a dog and I can feed it. I don't even have to let it go out and find its own food. Go straight to Walmart, get the healthy diet, throw it on my shoulder and carry it up like a boss. This is what happens when we choose gratitude. Listen, in all of your relationships, honestly, okay. This is the honest last thing I'm going to say. In all of your relationships, choose to pour into those relationships. That is a great weapon for you when you are fighting the battle of lust. Pour into the relationships that you already have and watch God bless your life. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for everything that you are. We thank you for everything that you've blessed us